Man, the Baltimore Ravens really had people talking after that trade deadline passed. All across the league, we saw big moves, blockbuster deals, teams going all in to make a statement for the second half of the season. And then there's Baltimore, just sitting back, watching the fireworks, and deciding to stand still. It almost feels like they walked into a casino with a pocket full of chips and chose to sit at the table, fold every hand, and walk out before the cards were even dealt. You can call it patience, confidence, or even pride, but no matter what you call it, it was a gamble. A big one. Because the Ravens didn't just pass up on adding talent. They might have passed up on one of the best chances they've had in years to go deep in the playoffs. Now, maybe the front office sees something we don't. Maybe they believe this current group has what it takes. But the product on the field hasn't always backed that up. The defense has shown flashes of brilliance, but also long stretches of vulnerability. The run defense, especially, has been an issue all season, and the offensive line has looked like it's been taped together with duct tape and hope. Injuries have hit hard, depth has been tested, and the consistency just hasn't been there. You can tell they're a tough, well-coached team. That's never the problem. But there's a difference between being gritty and being good enough to take down the league's elite come playoff time. So what did they actually do? They brought in Draymond Jones and Lohei Gilman, while sending out a few picks, a fifth and a sixth, with one of them possibly turning into a fourth if certain conditions hit. That's basically it. No major shakeups. No jaw-dropping trades. Just a quiet reshuffling of the deck chairs. It's not a disaster, don't get me wrong, but it's also not the kind of deadline that moves the needle for a team that's been stuck hovering around the middle of the pack. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. Fans expected something big. A Quinnen Williams, a Dexter Lawrence, a real difference maker who could dominate up front and bring that old-school Baltimore physicality back to life. Instead, it feels like the organization doubled down on the idea that our way works. It's that same old Ravens philosophy: draft, develop, and trust your guys. That formula has worked for decades, sure, but football changes, and so does the competition. Look at what other teams are doing. Aggressive front offices are reshaping their rosters mid-season, taking risks, and chasing the championship window before it closes. Meanwhile, Baltimore's approach seems to be, let's not mess it up. And while that might sound reasonable, it can also be the kind of thinking that keeps you from taking the leap from good to great. Draymond Jones is a solid player. He's quick off the line, has some juice as a pass rusher, and can make plays when he's on. You watch his tape from Denver and Seattle, and there are flashes, the kind that make you think, okay, maybe there's something here. But he's not the kind of player who's going to instantly transform a defense by himself. Expecting him to be the savior of this pass rush is unfair. And let's be honest, that's what some fans are hoping for right now because there wasn't much else added. He's coming into a tough spot, trying to fill big shoes, and that's never easy. And then there's Lohei Gilman. A nice addition, sure. Brings energy, plays smart, can help in the secondary. But again, that's depth, not dominance. You're not winning a division on depth moves alone. The AFC North is brutal this year. Every team is physical. Every game feels like a street fight. And if you're not improving while your rivals are, you're falling behind. You look at the record. The Ravens have been fighting to get back to 500, trying to stay afloat in a division where every week matters. They've had some tough breaks, but also plenty of self-inflicted wounds. And that's the thing. This was a chance to fix some of those issues, to give Lamar Jackson and this defense some extra help. Instead, the front office decided to ride it out. It's that our system works mentality again. And while there's pride in that, there's also risk. Now, I'm not saying every big trade guarantees success. Sometimes you swing big and miss. But sometimes, taking that risk is exactly what separates a team that hopes to make the playoffs from one that expects to. You look at teams like the Eagles. Howie Roseman doesn't hesitate to pull the trigger when he sees an opportunity. He knows you don't get rings by playing scared. He even said it himself. You don't have great success without taking great risks. And that's what Baltimore seems scared of, failure. They'd rather play it safe and stay in control than make a move that could blow up in their face. But playing it safe rarely leads to parades in February. Fans are tired of hearing about draft capital like it's a trophy. Yes, the Ravens have always been great at finding talent in the draft. They've hit on plenty of late-round gems. But the truth is, not every draft class is a home run, and sometimes those picks don't turn into difference makers. If we're being honest, a few of the recent draft classes haven't delivered as much as the organization hoped. Some players have flashed potential, but haven't become consistent contributors. And when you're in a win-now window, when you've got a franchise quarterback in his prime, an elite middle linebacker like Roquan Smith, and a defense that's one or two pieces away, that's when you have to go for it. Instead, the Ravens seem content to bet on what they have. It's that "we're good enough" attitude. Maybe it works. Maybe in a few months, they'll be celebrating a playoff run and everyone will say, "See, they knew what they were doing." But right now, it feels like a missed chance. Because the truth is, this team could have used that extra jolt, that statement move that tells the locker room, "We're all in. We believe in you, and we're backing it up." Players feel that. The fans feel that. And it changes the energy around the entire organization. Even if they didn't land a superstar, showing that aggressive mindset goes a long way. It tells everyone you're serious about contending. But by sitting out, the Ravens gave off a different message. One that says they're okay with just staying competitive instead of chasing greatness. Maybe that's harsh, but when you've been watching this team grind through close losses, late collapses, and depth issues, it's hard not to feel that way. The thing is, Baltimore's not far off. That's what makes it so frustrating. The foundation is there. Lamar has shown flashes of his MVP form again. The defense has talent, even if the front seven needs reinforcement. They've got playmakers, leadership, and one of the most respected coaching staffs in football. But talent gaps and thin depth charts have a way of showing up at the worst times. December, January, when the margin for error is razor thin. This trade deadline was the moment to patch those cracks, to go get that missing piece. It didn't have to be Quinnen Williams specifically, but a move like that would have sent a message. Instead, Baltimore chose the quiet route, the cautious route. And now, we're left wondering if that decision is going to hold them back when the stakes are highest. Because the road through the AFC isn't getting any easier. Every other contender made moves. The Chiefs tweaked. The Bengals adjusted. The Eagles reloaded. And while those teams are putting the finishing touches on their playoff-ready rosters, the Ravens are banking on their system, their scouting, and their locker room chemistry to carry them. Maybe it will. But maybe, just maybe, that belief in the system has turned into stubbornness, the kind that keeps you from evolving when the moment calls for it. If there's one thing that defines the Ravens' front office, it's loyalty to their philosophy. They believe in their scouting, in their development, and in the idea that great teams are built through the draft, not through desperation. And look, that's admirable in a lot of ways. It's the reason Baltimore has stayed relevant for so long, while other franchises constantly blow things up and start over. But in this modern NFL, the landscape is changing fast. The teams that wait and hope often get left behind. The ones that take smart risks, who see the moment and go after it, are the ones still standing when January football gets cold and brutal. That's why so many fans have been restless. It's not that the Ravens didn't do anything. It's that they didn't do enough. They're in that weird middle ground between being contenders and being pretenders. And that space is dangerous. Because if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward, especially in a conference as stacked as the AFC. Every Sunday, it's a war out there. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Dolphins, all teams that can light up a scoreboard and punish mistakes. And Baltimore's answer to all of that was to add one rotational pass rusher and a defensive back. It just feels like a mismatch in ambition. Take Howie Roseman and the Eagles as an example again. The guy's not afraid of the moment. He sees a window, and he jumps through it. When he sees a chance to strengthen a roster, even one that's already elite, he acts. It's not about playing scared, it's about staying aggressive. When he was asked about his mindset, his answer was simple: you don't have great success without taking great risks. And that quote hit Ravens fans hard, because that's exactly what they've been begging for, a little bit of that fire, that sense of urgency, that "we're going for it right now" energy. Baltimore has been playing the long game for so long that it's almost like they've forgotten that sometimes you have to win the short game first. Eric DeCosta is smart. Nobody's questioning that. He's one of the sharpest minds in football. But even great decision-makers can fall into patterns. And right now, his pattern feels predictable. It's almost as if he's more afraid of making the wrong move than excited to make the right one. He values control, stability, and the idea that no single season should ever come at the expense of the franchise's long-term health. But football doesn't wait for 5-year plans. Championship windows open and close faster than ever, and you never know how many shots you'll really get. Lamar Jackson is in his prime. Roquan Smith is in his prime. You've got young stars like Kyle Hamilton, Zay Flowers, and Nate Wiggins showing real flashes of greatness. The core is there. This isn't a team trying to find its identity. It already knows who it is. It just needs reinforcements, those difference makers who can take over a game when everything else breaks down. And those guys aren't always sitting in the 5th round of next year's draft. Sometimes they're out there on the trade block, waiting for a team brave enough to pull the trigger. And the Ravens had options. Quinnen Williams was the big dream, sure, but there were others. Dexter Lawrence, Jeffrey Simmons, maybe even a surprise veteran on a struggling team looking to move contracts. Baltimore had the draft capital and the cap space flexibility to do something bold. But once again, they chose patience. It's almost poetic at this point. The Ravens are so good at waiting for the right move that they might have waited past the moment altogether. Fans aren't blind to the context, either. They know you can't just trade for stars like you're playing Madden. It's not that simple. Negotiations drag, teams overvalue their players, and asking prices can be ridiculous. But even still, it's about intent. It's about showing you're in the fight. Other teams found a way to get it done, to at least make their fans feel that urgency. And Baltimore, they settled for what they called value. Now, there's a world where this strategy works. Maybe Draymond Jones fits perfectly, maybe Lohei Gilman locks down his role, and the defense tightens up at just the right time. Maybe some of those young draft picks finally click, and suddenly everything makes sense. It could happen. The Ravens have made people eat their words before. But if it doesn't happen, if they hit that same playoff wall again, if the offense stalls out late, if the defense runs out of gas, then this trade deadline will haunt them. The real issue isn't even the lack of moves. It's what that lack of aggression represents. It's like a mindset that's a little too comfortable, a little too cautious. When Howie Roseman said, "We can't be afraid to fail," he was speaking directly to the kind of thinking that seems to hold the Ravens back. Failure is part of competition. Playing scared never works in football. You can't tiptoe through a league full of teams willing to break down walls to win. It's easy to say, well, we'll handle it through the draft. But that logic only works if you're hitting on every pick. And lately, that hasn't been the case. Sure, Nate Wiggins looks like a stud. But beyond that, you've got a lot of question marks. Some guys flash, then disappear. Others can't stay healthy. And if your draft success rate dips even a little, suddenly that entire build through the draft model starts to wobble. Then you're left with a roster that's good, but not quite good enough. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In what could be one of the most seismic moves of the offseason, the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly closed a deal with defensive juggernaut Chase Young, sending shockwaves through the NFL. Sources close to the team claim that Young, known for his unparalleled blend of speed, power, and football IQ, is now officially Baltimore-bound, sparking feverish speculation about just how dominant the Ravens' pass rush could become. Though nothing is set in stone, insiders suggest this move may be the linchpin in Baltimore's aggressive strategy to create absolute chaos for opposing quarterbacks. Imagine Young lining up opposite an already formidable defensive front, and suddenly every snap could be a nightmare for offensive coordinators. The mere presence of a talent like Young can alter an entire game plan. Double teams, chip blocks, and hurried throws could become the new norm for anyone daring to face the Ravens. Fans and pundits alike are buzzing with anticipation. Social media is alight with theories, from Young forming a devastating duo with the Ravens' existing stars to predictions of historic sack totals that could redefine what it means to play quarterback in the AFC North. One insider even hinted that Baltimore's front seven could become so oppressive that opposing offenses might need to invent entirely new schemes just to survive a Sunday afternoon. Of course, with any blockbuster signing, there's a shadow of uncertainty. Chemistry, scheme fit, and health all play a role. But if Young hits the ground running, Baltimore may not just dominate on defense. They could rewrite the narrative of the entire season. Rumors of contract details remain tightly under wraps, but the excitement alone is enough to ignite a frenzy among fans desperate for a return to glory. For now, the league watches with bated breath. One thing is certain. If this signing is real, the Ravens aren't just playing to compete. They're playing to terrorize the competition, and Chase Young could be the spark that sets the NFL on fire. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.